Red Rock Redemption. The sun, a bleeding eye on the horizon, cast long shadows across the dust-choked streets of Red Rock. The wind, a restless spirit, howled through the gaps in the weathered buildings, whistling a mournful tune. Jake Callahan, known as Quickdraw in whispers and legends, rode into town, his horse's hoofs drumming a steady rhythm against the parched earth. The echoes of his arrival seemed to stir the ghosts of Red Rock, a town drowning in its violent history. Jake, a man etched with the lines of hardship and regret, dismounted in front of the rusty spur. The saloon, a haven for weary travelers and hardened outlaws, pulsed with a nervous energy. Silas McGraw, the Viper, had coiled his influence around Red Rock, squeezing the life out of its inhabitants. His gang, a pack of wolves in human form, roamed the streets, their eyes glinting with malice. Inside the saloon, the air was thick with the scent of whiskey and fear. Jake, his hand never far from the worn handle of his Colt, scanned the room. His gaze fell upon Clara, the saloon owner, her fiery red hair a beacon in the dim light. Her eyes, though, held a weariness that mirrored his own. "Silas is expecting a shipment of gold," she said, her voice low and husky. "He aims to take it, and anyone who gets in his way." Jake nodded, a grim determination settling on his face. He'd come to Red Rock seeking redemption, a chance to wash away the sins of his past. Silas, the man who'd poisoned his life, was the key. Years ago, Silas had manipulated Jake, then a green lawman, into a disastrous raid that left Silas's brother dead and Jake branded a criminal. Now, Silas ruled Red Rock with an iron fist, a constant reminder of Jake's past mistakes. The days that followed were a tense dance of shadows and whispers. Jake, gathering information and allies, felt the weight of the town's hopes on his shoulders. He found a hesitant ally in Old Man Hemmings, the blacksmith, who yearned for the days before Silas's reign of terror. He also sensed a flicker of rebellion in the eyes of some of the townsfolk, tired of living in fear. But fear of Silas ran deep, and trust was a precious commodity. He knew Silas was hunting him, the Viper sensing the threat to his dominion. Jake felt the pressure mounting, the inevitable confrontation looming like a thundercloud. He practiced his quick draw in the dead of night, the metallic click of the hammer a chilling counterpoint to the howling wind. The climax arrived with the ferocity of a desert storm. The gold shipment arrived at dawn, a heavily guarded stagecoach rumbling down the main street. Silas and his gang emerged from their hideouts, guns blazing, turning the dusty street into a battleground. Jake, positioned on a rooftop, aimed. His first shot shattered the reins of the lead horses, throwing the stagecoach into chaos. Gunfire erupted from all directions, the sharp crack of Jake's Colt answered by the roar of Silas's men. Jake, a whirlwind of motion, fought with the cold precision of a man who'd stared death in the face countless times. But Silas was cunning, using the chaos as a shield. He took cover behind the stagecoach, his men firing indiscriminately. Just as Jake gained the upper hand, Clara stepped into the fray, a hidden derringer glinting in her hand. She fired, but not at Silas. The bullet tore through the air, striking the ground near Jake's feet. In the ensuing confusion, Silas slipped away, vanishing into the maze of alleys. Later, as the dust settled and the echoes of gunfire faded, Jake confronted Clara in her ravaged saloon. Her eyes, filled with a mixture of fear and defiance, revealed the truth. She had been playing both sides, feeding Silas information while pretending to help Jake. "I did what I had to," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "To survive." Silas had threatened her, leveraged her past against her. Years ago, she had been his lover, a desperate attempt to find protection in a harsh world. But she had underestimated his cruelty, his possessiveness. When she tried to leave him, he had scarred her, both physically and emotionally, a reminder of his control. Jake, his heart heavy with betrayal, rode out of Red Rock, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of blood and regret. Silas, lurking in the shadows, watched him go, his eyes burning with venomous hatred. The game, it seemed, was far from over. But Jake couldn't escape the pull of Red Rock, the unfinished business, the lingering questions about Clara. He camped under the vast expanse of the starry sky, the silence amplifying the turmoil within him. Had he misjudged Clara? Was there more to her story? He remembered the desperation in her actions during the gunfight, the way she had risked her own life to create the diversion. It hadn't been the act of a cold-hearted manipulator. He thought of the way she had looked at him, the fleeting moments of vulnerability, the shared understanding of their trapped existence in Red Rock. With the first rays of dawn, Jake turned his horse back towards Red Rock. He couldn't abandon the town to its fate, couldn't leave the innocent to suffer under Silas's tyranny. And he couldn't shake the feeling that Clara, despite her betrayal, was somehow the key to ending Silas's reign. He rode into town, the midday sun beating down mercilessly. The streets were deserted, the silence broken only by the creak of a signboard and the buzz of flies. He dismounted in front of the rusty spur, his hand hovering over his colt. The saloon doors swung open, revealing Clara standing in the dim light, a bandage on her arm where a stray bullet had grazed her. "You came back," she said, her voice a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "I had to," Jake replied, his gaze unwavering. "There's still unfinished business." Clara's eyes flickered with a mix of emotions, fear, relief, and a glimmer of something that looked like hope. She knew this was their second chance, a chance to right the wrongs, to expose Silas's web of deceit, and maybe, just maybe, to forge a path toward redemption, together. "Silas is holed up in the abandoned mine," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's planning his next move." This was it. The showdown. Jake and Clara, two souls bound by a shared past and a fragile hope for the future, prepared to face the viper in his den. The fate of Red Rock, and their redemption, hung in the balance. If you are enjoying adventure in the Old West channel, hit the subscribe button for future posts.